The moment my mother smiled across the crowded dining table and announced, "We've decided the lake house should go to Mark and his family. It's only fair for the grandkids," my stomach dropped like a stone. I had spent the last 5 years quietly pouring my heart into that place. The secret house Grandma had promised me in her real will, the one place where I could finally be myself without fear. But as the words hung in the air, I realized this family dinner in our suburban Chicago home wasn't just another Sunday gathering. It was the moment everything would change. My name is Alex Thompson, 28, and for too long, I had hidden who I was to keep the peace. The dining room smelled of pot roast and fresh rolls, the same scents that had filled this house since I was a kid. Dad sat at the head of the table, his gray hair neatly combed, tie still on from the office even though it was the weekend. Mom fluttered around in her floral apron, refilling water glasses like nothing in the world could be wrong. Mark, my older brother by 4 years, grinned from his seat beside his wife Lisa, their 2 little boys chasing each other under the table. They looked like the picture-perfect family in a catalog, something I had never been allowed to be part of. I arrived an hour earlier, parking my old blue sedan behind Mark's shiny SUV. The house looked the same, white siding, American flag waving gently on the porch, basketball hoop still hanging crooked over the garage. I carried the usual bottle of red wine and a store-bought pie, forcing a smile as Mom hugged me too tight. "You look tired, honey," she said, patting my cheek. "We're keeping you busy." I nodded, not trusting my voice. Work was fine, graphic design paid the bills, but it wasn't the reason for the dark circles under my eyes. Those came from nights spent staring at the ceiling in my tiny apartment, wondering how much longer I could keep pretending. Grandma Eleanor had died 6 years ago, and with her went the last person who truly saw me. On her deathbed in the hospital, she had slipped an envelope into my hand when no one else was looking. "The lake house in Wisconsin is yours, Alex," she whispered, her voice thin but sure. "The lawyer has the real will. I told him to keep it quiet until you were ready. You've always been my gentle boy. This place will be your safe harbor." Inside the envelope were the deed and a handwritten letter stating her wish clearly. I had driven up there the very next weekend, alone, and stood on the wooden dock watching the sun sparkle on Lake Chelan. The small cabin needed work, peeling paint, leaky roof, but it felt like home in a way the Chicago house never had. Over the years, I poured every spare dollar into repairs, weekends away from the city, telling my family I was camping with friends. They never asked too many questions. Now, as Mom passed the mashed potatoes, Mark leaned back and stretched. "Yeah, the lake house will be perfect for the boys. Room to run around, learn to fish, all that." Lisa nodded eagerly, her hand on her rounded belly. She was expecting their third. Dad grunted in agreement. I felt the blood drain from my face. They had no idea I had paid the property taxes every year, fixed the dock myself last summer, even installed solar panels so the place ran off-grid. To them, it was just another family asset waiting for the right sun. I excused myself to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. My reflection stared back, short brown hair, green eyes that looked too tired, the same face that had smiled politely through years of, "When are you going to settle down with a nice girl?" Comments. Jordan's text from earlier that morning still glowed on my phone. "You don't have to do this alone. Call me after. I love you." Jordan Hayes, 30, high school history teacher with kind brown eyes and a laugh that made everything lighter. We had met 2 years ago at a quiet coffee shop downtown during a support group for queer professionals. No dramatic movie moment. Just 2 guys bonding over bad office coffee and shared stories of family silence. He knew about the lake house. He had helped me paint the kitchen last fall, our hands brushing as we worked side by side under the afternoon sun. But my family had never met him. They didn't even know he existed. Back at the table, conversation flowed around me like a river I couldn't swim in. Mark talked about his promotion at the bank. Lisa shared ultrasound pictures. The boys giggled. I pushed food around my plate, the weight of Grandma's letter burning in my jacket pocket upstairs. I had brought the documents tonight, not to start a fight, but because something deep inside told me the time had come. 5 years of silence. 5 years of being the reliable, but invisible brother, the son who never quite measured up. The lake house wasn't just property. It was proof that someone had loved me exactly as I was. Mom cleared the plates, and Dad poured more wine. "Family meeting after dessert," he said casually. My heart hammered. This was it, the moment they would try to take what wasn't theirs. I thought of Jordan waiting in his apartment across town, probably grading papers with soft music playing. I thought of the lake house at dawn, mist rising off the water, the peace I had found there alone and with him. I thought of the boy I used to be, crying in my bedroom after my first crush on the soccer coach in high school, terrified Dad would find out. Dessert arrived, apple pie with vanilla ice cream, and I took a deep breath. The secret I had guarded for 28 years was about to step into the light. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for certain. I was done hiding. The pie tasted like cardboard, but I forced down a bite anyway. Dad set his fork aside and folded his hands on the table, the same way he had when he announced his retirement last year. "Kids, your mother and I have been talking. The lake house has been sitting empty too long. Mark and Lisa need the space now that another baby's on the way. It makes sense to transfer the deed to them. Keep in the family, give the grandkids those summers we all remember." He looked straight at me, expecting agreement. Mom nodded, her eyes soft but firm. Mark smiled like he had already won. I felt the room tilt. Summers we all remembered? I remember being 10, watching Mark and Dad fish while I stayed inside, helping Grandma bake cookies because I was too clumsy with the rods. I remembered being 16, coming home from my first date with a boy from drama club, only to hear Dad mutter, "Real men don't cry over friends." And I remembered being 20, sitting beside Grandma's hospital bed while Mark was on a business trip. She had held my hand and said, "Don't let them dim your light, Alex. The world needs more gentle hearts like yours." My voice came out steadier than I expected. "Actually, Dad, the lake house isn't empty. I've been taking care of it." The words landed like stones in still water. Mark's smile faltered. Lisa blinked. Mom's hand froze midair with the coffee pot. Dad's eyebrows rose. "What do you mean, taking care of it?" I reached into my jacket and pulled out the envelope, placing it gently on the tablecloth. "Grandma left it to me. The real will is right here. She wanted me to have it. I've paid every tax bill, fixed the roof, installed new windows. It's mine." Silence stretched so long I could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. Mark leaned forward, voice tight. "Come on, Alex." Grandma was sick. She probably didn't mean. She meant exactly what she wrote. I cut in, sliding the letter across. Dad scanned it, his face hardening. "This doesn't change anything. Family looks out for family. Mark has responsibilities. You're still young, single. The place should go where it can do the most good." The word single stung more than usual tonight. I thought of Jordan's warm hand in mine during quiet evenings at the lake house, the way he made coffee just the way I liked it, the way we talked for hours about everything and nothing. Flashbacks flooded me. At 19, I tried to tell them. Sat them down after Sunday dinner and said the words that had been choking me for years. "I'm gay." Dad's face had gone blank, then red. Mom had cried and asked if it was a phase. Mark had laughed awkwardly and changed the subject to football. The next 6 months were cold silence and pointed comments about finding the right girl. I learned to smile, date girls for show, bury myself in college, and then work. I became the dependable son who sent birthday cards and showed up for holidays. But inside, the loneliness grew until Jordan walked into that coffee shop and changed everything. He had listened without judgment when I told him about the lake house. "It's your sanctuary," he said one evening as we sat on the dock, feet dangling in the cool water. "Don't let anyone take that from you." Tonight, his words gave me strength. Mom reached for my hand, her voice gentle but laced with worry. "Sweetheart, we love you. But Mark has a wife, kids, a real future. What do you have besides that little apartment downtown?" The question cut deep because it echoed every doubt I had ever had about myself. What did I have? A career I loved, friends who accepted me, a partner who saw me completely. But they didn't know any of that. I pulled my hand back gently. "I have the life I built, Mom, and I have the truth." The room felt smaller, the air thicker. Mark muttered something about selfish, but I barely heard. My mind raced back to the first time I drove to the lake house after Grandma's funeral. I had stood in the empty living room, dust motes dancing in the sunlight, and cried for the boy I had hidden. Then I rolled up my sleeves and started fixing what was broken, both the house and myself. Dad pushed the letter away. We'll talk to the lawyer tomorrow. This is a family decision. But I knew it wasn't. Grandma had chosen me because she understood what the others never could. She had seen me sneak books about boys who love boys under my mattress when I was 14. She had never said a word, only left the light on in the kitchen so I could read late. I stood slowly, legs steady despite the pounding in my chest. No, Dad, this is my decision, and there's more I need to say. The words I had practiced in the mirror for years waited on my tongue. The family that had tried to erase part of me was about to meet the whole man. The tension crackled like static before a storm. Dad's face turned the color of the red wine in his glass. More? What else could there possibly be, Alex? Mark crossed his arms, looking every bit the older brother who used to pin me down in wrestling matches and call me weak. Lisa shushed the boys and sent them to the playroom, sensing the shift. Mom's eyes darted between us, pleading silently for peace. I stayed standing. The envelope with Grandma's letter rested on the table, like a flag of truce no one wanted to honor. There's someone in my life, I said quietly. Someone important. His name is Jordan. The name felt like freedom leaving my mouth. Mark snorted. A roommate. I met his eyes directly. No, my partner. We've been together 2 years. He's the one who helped me restore the lake house. It's our place, mine and his. Mom gasped softly. Dad's jaw tightened so hard I heard his teeth click. The reaction was exactly what I had feared for a decade, yet somehow it hurt less than I expected. Because this time I wasn't asking for permission. I was stating facts. Memories rushed in. The first time Jordan stayed overnight at the lake house, we had cooked pasta on the old stove and danced to an old radio station under string lights I had hung myself. He had whispered, "You deserve this peace every day, Alex," and I believed him. Back in the city, our relationship lived in quiet corners, weekend hikes where no one knew us, late-night talks on my tiny balcony. I had introduced him to my best friend Sarah from work, and she had hugged him immediately. Finally, she said, but family was different. Family carried the weight of every holiday I had spent pretending. Mark leaned forward, voice low. "You're really doing this now? In front of Mom and Dad? After everything they've done for us?" The accusation landed heavy. Everything they had done, paid for my college, helped with my first car, expected me to be the backup plan when Mark's life got complicated. I had quietly covered Mark's gambling debt 2 years ago without telling anyone, using money I had saved for the lake house renovations. He never knew. I kept my voice even. I'm doing this because hiding almost destroyed me. Grandma knew. She left me the house, so I would have somewhere safe to be exactly who I am. And Jordan makes me happy in ways I never thought possible. Dad stood abruptly, chair scraping. "Happy? This is not the life we raised you for, son. We can fix this. Counseling, whatever it takes." The offer felt like another cage. I thought of the nights I had cried alone after family dinners, just like this one, wondering if love from them required erasing half of myself. I thought of Jordan's patience when I canceled plans because I was too scared to explain why I couldn't bring him home. The lake house had become my anchor. Weekends there with him, building shelves together, planting a small garden, talking about maybe one day adopting a dog. It was proof that I could create something lasting without their approval. Mom's eyes filled with tears. "We love you, Alex." But the grandkids, the family name, her voice trailed off. I felt a pang of guilt mixed with anger. Love that came with conditions wasn't love at all. Mark shook his head. "You're throwing away everything for some guy? The house belongs with a real family." The words real family sliced deep. I'd spent years proving I was real, paying bills, showing up, being the steady one. Yet in their eyes, my love made me less. I pulled out my phone and opened the photos folder, sliding it across to Mom. Pictures of the lake house, new dock, fresh paint, Jordan and me smiling on the porch at sunset. "This is my real family, too," I said softly. "And I'm not giving it up." The room fell into stunned quiet. Outside, a car passed on the quiet suburban street, headlights sweeping across the curtains. Inside, decades of unspoken rules cracked open. Dad stared at the photos, his expression unreadable. Mark looked away. I felt lighter than I had in years, even as the storm gathered. Jordan's voice echoed in my mind from our last conversation. Whatever happens, you're not alone anymore. He was right. The secret house had given me strength, and tonight I would use every bit of it. Dad picked up the phone and stared at the photos longer than I expected. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. This changes nothing about the deed, Alex. Legal or not, family comes first. But I could see the uncertainty flicker in his eyes. The same man who had taught me to ride a bike now faced a version of his son he had never allowed himself to imagine. Mom wiped her eyes with a napkin, glancing at the pictures again. "He looks nice," she whispered, as if admitting it might break something fragile. Mark pushed back from the table. "You're really going to stand here and tell us you're choosing some guy over your own blood? After Mom and Dad sacrificed for both of us." His words carried years of resentment I hadn't realized he held. Maybe he had always felt the quiet favoritism Grandma showed me. Or maybe he simply couldn't picture his little brother as someone's partner. Lisa stayed silent, her hand protectively over her belly, watching the exchange like a spectator at a match she didn't want to judge. I took a slow breath, the way Jordan had taught me during anxious moments. "I'm not choosing against you. I'm choosing for myself. The house is legally mine. Grandma made sure of it because she saw what the rest of you refused to. And Jordan isn't some guy. He's the man I love." The word love felt solid in the room for the first time. No more coded language. No more friend. Flashbacks hit again. The night I almost told Mark 3 years ago after his bachelor party. We had been drinking, and for a moment he seemed like the big brother who used to defend me on the playground. But when I started to speak, he laughed and clapped my shoulder. "Don't go soft on me now." I swallowed the truth and ordered another round. The lake house became my confession booth instead. Long drives north where I could talk to the water and the trees about the man I was becoming. Sarah, my co-worker, had been the first to meet Jordan properly. She dragged us to a baseball game last summer, and afterward she pulled me aside. "He's good for you, Alex. Don't let family guilt steal your happiness." Her words echoed now as I faced the people who had unintentionally taught me guilt was love. Dad finally set the phone down. "We'll fight this in court if we have to. The family lawyer." "No court needed," I interrupted calmly. "The will is ironclad. I already spoke with Grandma's attorney last month when I sensed this might happen. He's ready to confirm everything." The bluff wasn't entirely a bluff. I had the number saved. But more important was the calm spreading through my chest. Standing here, claiming my truth, felt like stepping on a solid ground after years in quicksand. Mom reached for Dad's hand. "Robert, maybe we should listen. Alex has always been responsible. If he's been caring for the place," her voice trembled, but it was the first crack in the wall. Mark scoffed. "Responsible? He's been lying to us for years." I looked at my brother directly. "I lied because the truth scared me. It scared all of us. But I'm not scared anymore." The boys' laughter drifted from the playroom, innocent and unaware. I wondered what kind of uncles they would grow up knowing, the kind who taught fishing and acceptance, or the kind who taught silence. The grandfather clock struck 9. Outside, the suburban street was quiet, porch lights glowing like distant stars. Inside, the family I had tried so hard to protect was fracturing and reforming in the same breath. I thought of the lake house at night, porch light on, Jordan waiting on the swing with 2 mugs of tea. That future was mine to claim. Dad rubbed his temples. "This is a lot to take in, son." For the first time in years, the word son didn't feel like a demand. It felt like a beginning. The silence stretched until Mom finally spoke. "Tell us about him." "Jordan." Her voice was small but genuine, the first real question she had asked about my life in years. I sat back down slowly, the wooden chair creaking under me. "He teaches history, loves old maps and bad puns, makes the best pancakes on Saturday mornings. He's kind, patient, and he sees me, the real me." I described our weekends at the lake house. Early morning swims, evenings reading on the dock, the way he had helped rebuild the boathouse after a storm last spring. Each detail chipped away at the wall between us. Mark interrupted. "So that's why you disappeared every other weekend. Not camping, Playing house. The bitterness in his tone surprised me less than the hurt underneath. Maybe he felt replaced, or maybe he was confronting his own fears about what family meant. Lisa touched his arm gently. Mark, let him talk. Dad stared at the photos, still open on my phone. You've been paying for everything yourself? The taxes, the repairs. I nodded. Every penny. Because it mattered to me. Because Grandma trusted me with it. The admission hung between us, heavy with years of unspoken support I had given without credit. Helping Mark quietly when his investments tanked, driving Mom to doctor appointments when Dad was out of town, always the reliable shadow. I pulled the full deed from the envelope and laid it beside Grandma's letter. It's mine, legally and in every way that counts. But I'm not here to cut you out. I'm here to stop pretending. The words poured out then. The nights I had driven home from the lake house crying because I wanted to share my joy, but couldn't, the way Jordan's steady presence had healed parts of me I thought were broken forever. Mom's tears fell freely now. I wish you had told us sooner. I wish she couldn't finish. Dad cleared his throat roughly. We're not perfect, Alex, but you're still our son. The simple sentence carried more weight than any argument. Mark looked down at his hands, the fight draining from his shoulders. I didn't know you were carrying all that alone. For the first time in my adult life, the dining table felt like a place of honesty instead of performance. I told him about the night Jordan and I danced in the living room of the lake house to an old song on the radio, how we talked about maybe turning the spare room into a studio for my design work one day. I described the piece I found there that no amount of family approval could replace. The boys wandered back in, sensing the shift, and climbed into their parents' laps. The room felt warmer somehow. Dad picked up the deed again, studying the signatures. If this is what Grandma wanted, then maybe we were wrong to assume. His voice cracked on the last word. Mom smiled through her tears. We can visit sometime. All of us. Mark met my eyes across the table. I'm sorry, little brother. I was thinking about what I needed, not what you had built. The apology was simple, but it was real. I felt the last chains of fear fall away. The secret house had done its job, not just as shelter, but as the bridge that finally brought my two worlds together. The rest of the evening unfolded like a slow thaw after a long winter. We moved to the living room with fresh coffee, the boys playing quietly nearby. Dad asked questions, careful, awkward ones, about Jordan's job, how he met, whether he liked football. Mom wanted to know if Jordan had family nearby, if they celebrated holidays. Each question was a step closer. Mark even offered to help with future repairs at the lake house, his voice gruff but sincere. If it's yours, it's still family property in a way. I texted Jordan under the table. It went better than I hoped. They know, and they're trying. His reply came instantly. Proud of you. Can't wait to meet them when you're ready. The words warmed me more than the coffee. As the night wound down, I stood on the front porch with Dad while Mom packed leftovers for me to take home. The suburban street was dark and peaceful, crickets singing in the bushes. I don't understand everything, Dad admitted quietly, but I see you're happy. That's what matters. It wasn't perfect acceptance, but it was a beginning, one I had waited my whole life to hear. I drove home through the quiet streets, the envelope safe beside me on the passenger seat. The lake house waited up north, its porch light ready for two people now. Tomorrow I would call Jordan and plan our next weekend there. Maybe one day, soon we would host the whole family, barbecues on the dock, kids learning to swim, laughter replacing old silences. The journey hadn't been easy. Years of hiding, moments of doubt, the crushing weight of expectations. But standing up tonight had shown me that truth didn't destroy family. It reshaped it into something stronger. The gay son who had once feared losing everything had gained more than he ever imagined. Was Ethan right to reveal his truth and claim what was his, or should family loyalty have kept him silent forever? True or false?